Hello and welcome back to EAC, and today I'm doing another movie night video in which I'm going to be watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the second time. And if you have been watching my channel for at least a few months now, you would know that on the last day of last year, December 31st of course, I made a video. It might have even been January 1st of this year, I'm not sure. Either at the very end of last year or the beginning of this year, around that time, I made a review on this movie. When I first saw it, I didn't get to see it last year when it came out in theaters in I think July in the summer at some point. I didn't get to see it, so I bought this Blu-ray and I watched the movie, and then I just made a regular review on it again a few months ago near the beginning of this year. And I went back to that video about a week after I watched it, so still a while ago, and I gave it a 10 out of 10. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this movie. I thought it was awesome the first time I watched it, and I think that will carry over to when I rewatch it for the second time again today in this video. But I realized after I posted it that it didn't deserve a 10 out of 10. Again, I still really like this movie, but there are some flaws with it that I realized when I watched the movie. But when I made that review, it was right after I watched the movie for the first time once again, and I think I was just really excited to talk about it with you guys, and I was really giddy because the ending of this movie is incredible, and again, I was just so excited to talk about it that out of spite, I kind of gave it a 10 out of 10, even though there were some flaws. I just kind of looked past those. I didn't even mention them in the video. But as time went on, and I kept on thinking about that video, which wasn't that long ago, even though it was a couple months, it still was, I think, like 5 or 6 videos back, so not that long ago. But every time I look back on it, I remember that I gave it 10 out of 10, and I don't really feel right because I know it doesn't deserve that. So in this video, at the end, if you guys have seen these movie night videos that I've done before, aka the only other one that I have right now, the 2001 Space Odyssey one, I sit here, talk about the movie, and then I watch the movie either for the first time, like 2001, or in this case, the second time, aka I rewatch it, like this movie in this video. And then after I watch the movie, I talk about the movie, either giving my first reaction to it, like 2001 once again, or as in this video, I'm going to be talking about it in ways that I didn't in the review. And also, I will be giving it a new grade because, as I said, this doesn't really deserve a 10 out of 10. Again, I want to make this clear. I don't think that this movie is bad by any means. It at least deserves an 8 out of 10 or above, just not a 10 out of 10 for me. And that's just me thinking of the flaws in my head of when I first watched this movie a few months ago, which again, isn't that long ago. And I think I will get a better grasp of what these flaws are once I rewatch it, and that's one of the main reasons why I am making this video, because I could make this video on any other movie that I haven't even made a single video about, but I chose this mainly because I don't feel right giving you guys a false grade, even though none of you guys, at least in the comments, didn't say, oh, a 10 out of 10 really for this movie. Everyone enjoyed this movie, including me, just I don't think it's 10 out of 10 worthy. So again, once I rewatch it, I will get a better sense of what the flaws are, and I could give it a more accurate grade this time. And yeah, just the last review that I made on this movie, I was just really excited to talk about it. So I didn't really get into any of the flaws, and I just gave it a 10 out of 10 out of spite once again, just because it was so enjoyable. I think I will enjoy it the same amount, if not more, once I rewatch it again, but either I will notice the same flaws again, which I probably will, or I will notice more good things or more bad things, and that's not the reason why I'm rewatching this movie. I'm rewatching this because I've been really wanting to ever since I saw it for the first time, and I just haven't had the time to. There's something happening in the world right now that kind of gives me the perfect opportunity to do this. We're all stuck in our houses right now. It kind of sucks and it's really boring. So what better way to spend it than watching, I think, like a 2-hour-and-a-half movie, like 2-hour and 40-minute movie, something like that. So I finally have the time to rewatch it. But the reason why I'm making this video is basically just because I want a video for you guys, and also to kind of redo the review, you could say. Just imagine that the grade I give it at the end was in the regular review versus being in these movie night videos. Because again, I don't usually give a grade and make it a review. I usually just talk about the movie real quickly, except for 2001, because I had a ton of stuff to say about that. That was my first reaction. So I think I've been talking for long enough. Let's put this in the Blu-ray player. I'm really excited to rewatch it. I hope I do like it as much as last time. And here we go. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, movie night, rewatching it for the second time. Alright guys, so let's slide this out the slipcover. There we go. And actually, this slipcover, what I like about it a lot is that it has two covers. as this one and this one, instead of like having one side and then all the information on the back. It has two, and I like having this one because they're different instead of them both being the same, even though I think I like this one better. But let's open this up. What's cool about this, here we have the Blu-ray and then the DVD, is you could see that it's like an old projector reel, and that makes sense because this takes place in 1969, the end of Hollywood's golden age, as they say, and this is his love letter to the industry, as is also said by pretty much everyone who talks about the movie. But here we go. Let's put in the Blu-ray player, aka my Xbox, once again. There we go. And I'll show you guys the what's it called? The home screen? The menu screen, I guess you could say. Main menu, I guess. There we go. Oh man, I'm already excited to rewatch it. Oh man, okay, here we go. Play movie down there. Languages, don't need that. Scene selections. Special features as well. Also, this is pretty rare. Let me get the slipcover again. Right here, this is pretty rare for a Tarantino film. It has over 20 minutes of additional scenes and behind the scenes as well. I'm not sure about the behind the scenes. I mean, they must have behind the scenes, but 20 minutes of additional, aka like deleted and cut out scenes, that is rare for a Tarantino film. He usually doesn't cut out scenes, so, and I did not get to watch that either the first time I saw the movie, so I think I'll watch that after the video, because, you know, I don't really need to talk about that after I watch the movie. Like, you guys probably don't care, and I don't know what I would have to say about that, but yeah, I'll be sure to watch the additional scenes and behind the scenes after I watch the movie. But for right now, let's just watch the movie. So here we go. Play movie. I said movie a ton of times, but that's okay. There we go.
This man is worth $500. And this man is going to collect. He's Jake Cahill.
There we go. I wonder if this will be his second to last film, if he will ever only end up making 10. He says he will, but I'm not sure if he actually will follow through. I hope he makes more. There we go. Never understood why Leonardo DiCaprio was right below Brad Pitt and Brad Pitt was below Leonardo DiCaprio. I get Leo is the lead and Brad Pitt is supporting actor, but still, that was weird to me. Alright guys, so I'll see you after I rewatch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'll talk about the movie, give it a new grade, all that stuff, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a few hours.
2 hours later.
Oh man, there we go. Amazing ending. And I think I like it more than the first time I watched it. At least the same, definitely. Maybe a little bit more. Well, I'll talk all about it to you guys right now. Alright guys, so I just finished watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the second time, and as you heard me say, I think I did enjoy the movie a little bit more this time than I did the first time I watched it. And this time, because the first time I watched it, I was mainly watching it for the story, to see where the characters went. I was like really zoned into the movie to mainly focus on that stuff. But this time, instead of focusing on the main big plot of the movie, I was also able to look for little nuances that Quentin Tarantino hid in the movie, and he did hide a lot actually. One of the main is of course the scene when he is burning the Nazis. That's obviously a callback to Inglourious Basterds. Also, when he is playing, Leonardo DiCaprio, Rick Dalton is playing Caleb Decatu, I'm pretty sure. He thought it was Dakota, though. When he's playing that character, he delivers a few lines after he throws the little girl down on the floor in the scene. And he sounds just like Calvin Candy, the character that he played in Django Unchained. And he even has some lines kind of similar to that, and he also kind of looks like Calvin Candy. And I don't know if that was intentional. I'm pretty sure it was. Also, a lot of the names, like Margheriti is one of the directors that Rick did a movie for in Europe, and Margheriti was the last name of one of the Inglourious Basterds in Inglourious Basterds when they're going undercover, you could say, as French people, when they met Hans Landa there. And yeah, that was kind of cool too. A lot of names as well that are callbacks to some Quentin Tarantino's other movies. And yeah, again, I really enjoyed it this time. Again, I think a little bit more than last time. And the pacing is amazing in this. I never felt bored at one point. Also, this movie is really well shot. I think it is the best shot Quentin Tarantino film there is out there. And I think one of the main reasons why that is because this movie has a ton of different locations that the cinematographer Robert Richardson, I'm pretty sure that's his name. I might be getting that wrong. I'm sorry if I am. But he can make up a ton of different creative shots with all these locations versus one of Quentin Tarantino's other films like The Hateful Eight. There's only 1 to maybe 3 or 4 locations in that movie, and when most of the scenes have 2 characters sitting down talking, you can't make that many creative shots with that. But with this movie, Spawn Ranch, like the Spawn movie ranch, everything there, great shots there. And also the production design helps as well. Not just with the Spawn movie ranch, but also creating old Hollywood from 1969. They deserve that Oscar that they got for production design. This movie looks great both cinematography wise and also technically with the production design that also goes with cinematography. But yeah, this movie is filled with great shots, and I think I do stand by that this is the best shot Quentin Tarantino film out there. So past the positives that I didn't mention back in my review a couple months ago, again, I'm trying to stray away from repeating myself from that. So if you're wondering why I'm missing out on like the ending, which is incredible, I love the ending, and it really is actually emotional when after all the stuff with the Manson followers happens and Rick Dalton is just staying in the driveway, and then he starts talking to Jay, who lives with Sharon Tate at the Roman Polanski residence. He asks like, oh my god, what the hell happened? And then he tells him, and then Sharon Tate comes over the intercom, I think that's just what it was, at the front of their gate, and then she talks to him, and then Leonardo DiCaprio's Rick Dalton says, everything's alright, Sharon. It was emotional because obviously she died in real life, and everyone in that house died in real life, so it was really emotional seeing them all okay, and him just saying, everyone's okay, Sharon, and stuff like that. It was a really emotional and fulfilling ending. But yeah, if you're wondering why I'm not mentioning more stuff like that, and also the performances more and the main plot more, I did that all in my regular review a couple months ago once again. And yeah, so past all that stuff, past all the positives, because again, I love this movie. I think it's awesome. But I will get to the negatives that I have with this movie. A couple little flaws that I don't think will hinder the grade too much. But the main one, actually, I don't think there even is a main one because they are pretty small flaws. But one of the most noticeable ones, for me at least, was the narration that they put in. So near the end of the movie, we have Kurt Russell narrating where Sharon Tate, Jay, and her friends as well, where they're going when they arrived at her house, and he was like, they arrived at her house approximately 10:15 p.m. or stuff like that. I just thought that was a bit out of place for me. And they kind of introduced it really quickly earlier in the movie, right at the beginning, when Rick said, he said something about driving there or something to Marvin Schwartz. The narration kicked in right there, and he said, that's a big fucking lie. He lost his license due to too many drunk driving tickets, and Cliff has to drive him everywhere. That was the only narration before towards the end of the movie. And I feel like, first of all, that wasn't really necessary, and that was kind of weird when that just popped in because I don't know, I feel like it wouldn't really make sense in a movie like this, but that's just me, of course. And yeah, I feel like they just had it at the beginning there, saying the whole drunk driving thing, just so when it pops up later in the movie, it doesn't seem too weird that it's just there. And I'm fine with narration at the end of this movie. I just wish that it would have not been so awkward how it just popped in. And again, I know that they showed it earlier in the movie, but I feel like that was just so we weren't as unaccustomed to it when it popped up later in the movie. That was kind of a flaw for me. Also, the first act is good. I really like the first act in this movie, but the second act gets even better, and then the third act gets even better in my opinion. So when you look back on that first act, it doesn't seem as good anymore. Again, it's good. I like it. But when you think back at this movie, I feel like you aren't really going to remember the first act versus something like the finale in this movie in the third act, and also the whole Manson family stuff in the second act. I feel like you would just kind of look over the first act, and that's kind of a shame because it was good. But just because the second and the third act are better than it, and that's good that it goes up. I mean, you wouldn't want the first act to be incredible, or you would kind of want that, but not if it was going to go down as the movie went along and the third act being the worst. So I guess it's kind of good that the movie gets better as the acts go along, but still, once you think back to that first act, it doesn't seem as good anymore when you put the whole movie together. And yeah, so that was another little flaw. These are all really small negatives, at least for me. And another negative that I had, this is immensely small. This really doesn't matter at all. But Steve McQueen is in this movie for a little bit. Not the actor, like the actor plays Steve McQueen as a character in this movie. But at one point, he is at a pool party with Sharon Tate, and he tells another guest what is going on with her marriage and her friendship with Roman Polanski and Jay. I forget his last name. I've been mentioning him throughout this video. But yeah, he plays a smaller part in the movie. But he tells a story. He literally says that, let me tell you a story. And he says to the other guest, she was engaged to Jay, and then she went to make a movie with Roman, so and then they got in a relationship, and now the three of them are inseparable. That's what he says. And I feel like that was basically him just telling the audience. They make it seem like he's telling another guest, but why else would they put that in the movie? It's basically just exposition dumping. It's pretty much just telling us what's going on with Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski and her friends and stuff like that. And yeah, I thought that was... I don't know how they could have done that better. Again, this is a tiny, tiny flaw that, again, doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, that was something that I just picked up while watching the movie. And my final flaws with this movie is that Cliff Booth, I feel like it's just too convenient that Pussycat, that's what they call her, Margaret Qualley, that's the actress's name. But when they go to Spawn Movie Ranch, that's where Manson's followers are, that's where they live. I feel like it's just a bit too convenient that Cliff Booth has been there, and he's like, oh, I know what you're talking about. It was just so we could have this whole sequence of events with him and the Manson followers, and then later in the movie, it's convenient again when they break into his house, Rick Dalton's house, and Cliff Booth is there. I know this didn't happen in real life, so I'm kind of on the fence with this one as well. But they break into his house, but it's part of this story, so I guess it makes sense that this is kind of a flaw. They break into Rick Dalton's house, Cliff Booth is there, and then he goes, oh, I know all three of you. You're from Spawn Movie Ranch, and it just... Again, it's kind of convenient that they could have broken into any house that there was, and they just so happened to break into that very house, and it just so happened that Cliff Booth was there with Brandy as well, so Brandy could pretty much maul two of the intruders. But yeah, just thought that was a bit too convenient for me as well, and yeah, I'm pretty sure those are my only flaws with it. And I'm sorry about this again. This shouldn't have really happened. I should have mentioned these in my regular video, but I guess it is kind of better that I was able to rewatch it a second time to get a better grasp, as I said before I watched the movie, of what the flaws were so I could give you guys a more accurate grade. But yeah, those are my only flaws with this movie, and I still really enjoy it. Just imagine, again, that this grade that I'm about to give it belongs in the regular review, just because it is going to be lower than a 10 out of 10. I mean, it can't be higher than that. That's my highest grade, obviously. That doesn't mean that I dislike the movie anymore. As I said, I do like it a bit more than I did the first time I watched it. Just everything, the mood of it. This looked like an awesome time to be alive, not for Rick and Cliff, who are outside of Hollywood, like on the outskirts, looking in as everything is changing and they don't really like it. And Rick is pretty much a mess throughout the whole movie, even though he gets better at the end. That's good. But then Sharon Tate and them are inside of Hollywood and they're rising up as Hollywood is changing. I love that aspect of it. I think that was awesome. And also with Rick Dalton again, as his emotions change, at first, at the beginning of the movie, he is kind of happy-go-lucky, he's fine, he's living his life, right at the beginning. And then Alvin Shores, played by Al Pacino, who is excellent in this role, he tells him that all the stuff with him being a villain, and it's just not good for him as an actor and all that stuff. I can't really explain it right now. You guys probably know if you've seen the movie. And then Rick Dalton gets down on himself, and then once they drive home and he sees Roman Polanski, he says, I'm one pool party away from starring in a Polanski film who just directed Rosemary's Baby. He addresses that, Rick Dalton, in the movie. And then his hopes get up again as our emotions get up because we're kind of happy for him. But then later in the movie when he freaks out in a hilarious scene in his trailer when he goes haywire on everything. That was an awesome scene, by the way. And then him talking with the little girl. I said this in my regular review, but I'll say it again. When he is sitting down talking to the little girl and he is saying what he is reading, she asks him what he's reading. Her performance also is excellent. Everyone's performance in this movie is awesome. but he's reading a book about, it's a Western, and it's about a cowboy who used to be really good as like an action cowboy hero, you could say. He says anyone could throw a horse at him, but he would blah blah, like that term right there. And that basically describes how Rick, at the beginning with bounty law and stuff in the 50s, how he was doing really well for himself, but then later things start to not go as good. And in the book as well, this cowboy, I think he had a spine problem and he's just not as good as he is anymore. And then Rick Dalton starts crying in one of many moments when he cries in this movie. And him with the book that he's reading, his character parallels to the character in the book. Everything is awesome in this movie besides the little flaws that I mentioned. I had a great time rewatching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the second time, but as I said, I will give it a new grade. It will be lower than a 10 out of 10 because, again, back when I watched that movie for the first time, I was so excited. The ending is amazing and I still think it's amazing, but I just looked past all the negatives I had and I gave it a 10 out of 10. But in this video, I kind of redeemed myself. I talked about the negatives and the grade is still going to be really high, but those negatives do bring it down a little bit. So for that reason, I'm going to give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 9 out of 10. Once again, I'm very sorry that I didn't do this in the regular review. Again, hopefully this kind of redeems myself. But still, I like this movie even more than last time. Just imagine that this grade that I just gave it goes into that review. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, rewatching it in this movie night video. This movie is definitely one of my favorites of last year. Definitely in the top 5 at least. I love this movie. Although I gave it a lower grade than last time, I still like it, if not better than I did the first time that I watched it. Hopefully all this makes sense. Again, I'm very sorry it had to be this way with me not mentioning the flaws in my regular review a couple months ago. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this movie night on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I hope you all enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.